Okay, so we're going to review DoobieFish's deep run here in the Half Price Milli, $109 buy-in. Do you want to get your excuses out of the way now, Doobie?
Yeah.
Or whilst we go through the hand history?
I've got to get this out in advance, otherwise it's going to eat away. I just looked at the first couple of hands and they don't look great, to be honest. But if I set the scene by saying this is about 4 hours into the Sunday and I was probably stuck a fair bit at this point. I think I was on my second bullet here as we pick up this, and I pre-regged a few too many tourneys, so I probably got over 15 tables at this point, and I could see some like glaring mistakes in the first couple of hands. So get those out of the way, and I'll relax hopefully.
But hang on, there's just an interesting point on actually, you know, volume versus performance, because Doobie, like, for those that don't know, Doobie, like, massive degen, like, massive grinder, 15, like he's saying, I had 15 tables, that's standard. And then, like, when you're stuck in a session, you're flicking in the sit and goes, the spin and the, what was it? Fucking spin and goes.
Sit and go heroes.
Yeah. I didn't want to offend Pads, because I know it was sponsorship with parties, so I didn't want to use the PokerStars one. But like for me, like it's always been a discussion point about that equilibrium, like of the number of tables versus performance. I actually remember seeing Pads. You wrote a tweet saying if you're playing low stakes and you're not playing 500 games a month, you're doing it wrong. So what's your opinion on like number of tables that you should be playing?
Yeah, I generally think like 9 tables is probably the most. The best amount of tables to use. I think the most important thing is when you play volume to kind of like see what's going on and what people are doing. So let's say you run a simulation on PS Solver or even like a pre-flop simulation like HRC or iSimizer. For all of these simulations, you need to put in accurate ranges, otherwise it's pointless doing a simulation, you know, because like if you're trying to work out how to play against like a button shove with like 20 big blinds and whatever else, then you need to see as many showdowns as possible, so you start getting an understanding of what people's ranges actually are or what they aren't, you know. So I think when you're trying to learn and trying to get better, it's important to put volume in so that you see. It's like going to the gym, you know. Like you need to put in as many reps as possible so you can understand basically what you can manage, I guess. So yeah, I think volume is most important, not necessarily to make money, but more just for like learning and to improve. Being obsessed than just like playing. That's kind of how I did it, at least.
Do you think the lower you play, the more volume you should put in, and sort of the higher stakes you play, like the less tables?
I mean, the lower the stakes, the more people play exploitative, and the more you can exploit people. So the more important that you actually realize what's going on, because the lower the stakes you play, the less kind of theory orientated you should be playing. You should be playing more like exploiting the player pool. I think it's almost easier to play more tables the higher stakes you play, because you're playing kind of this defensive kind of theory orientated poker, where like I often play like 18 tables. But if I was playing lower stakes, I'd probably play less tables and just play like a way higher VPIP and a way higher RFI and just play more aggressively and play more hands. But the higher stakes you play, you have to play a little bit tighter, so you're folding more naturally. But yeah, like if I started just for whatever reason playing like $10 tournaments, I would play like super, super loose because everyone folds too much. And I would, for that reason, I would have too many decisions going on at the same time to play like 15 tables or 12 tables or something like that. So yeah, I'd recommend like 8, 9 tables maximum, the lower the stake.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I took a look at my HUD stats for this tourney, and they were about 5% lower VPIP and PFR than what I'd say my sort of A game is, and that was sort of due to the amount of tables. So it's definitely something to take away from it, and also sort of misclicks and that sort of thing, and not noticing people have opened and that sort of thing.
Is this a 109 or 215, by the way?
It's the 109.
109, Half Price Milli.
But even if you have like say 50% ROI in this tournament, which is like pretty realistic, you're making like $50 in this game, and then if you're playing like a $10 game with like 10% ROI or something, it almost makes no sense to play the lower stakes game, because you can get the EV from that game in this tournament just by focusing a little bit more, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think also the lowest
temptation.
stakes have got worse structures, and quicker structures as well, and less time banks. So you're going to have to play less volume with those ones as well.
That's an interesting thought.
It's hard to resist the temptation, though. I think.
I'd say particularly for me on on Sundays, I'd say particularly, and this Sunday in particular, there were just so many things to register, and I think the mistake I made particularly was like pre-regging stuff, like rather than wait until I got a table free.
Yeah, I've never pre-registered a tournament in my life.
Right. Yeah, I think that's definitely a mistake that I make sometimes. Definitely.
Yeah, usually you can. I mean, the higher stakes you play, you can like kind of almost choose what table you play on a lot of the time. The lower the field size, you can see in the lobby like you see all the tables. It's like 8, 8, 8, 8, 7,
Yeah.
and you can choose if you want to play with the 7 guys or not. At least when the field size is a little bit smaller, or you can probably, maybe I shouldn't recommend it to you, but yeah.
Stuff. Okay, well let's dive in. Doobie's got the excuses in early, and
I'm dreading this.
as he opens this first hand to 8x pre.
No.
Oh no, he just folds. Okay, cool. That's good. Okay, so this first hand you play, I believe, opening Jack 9 suited, flattered by the bottom.
Somewhat. Yeah, Jack King off. You skipped over, Gaz?
Yeah, sorry. I think under the gun opened.
Folded that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, under the gun opened, yeah.
I think we're folding here, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd say this is like bottom of my range.
Yeah. So ace 9-7 board. What's anyone's thoughts on this spot? We check or bet?
Go DB.
DB, go for it.
Well, from my the little bit of PR I've done with you,
how many hands is that?
Not many, but it favours a higher bet frequency, I think, from these positions. But I think PO would probably say to bet, but I think I'd do bet. I'm not 100%, but I'm not sure on this one. I'm interested to see what everyone says.
I'm checking this one, like almost always. Check call.
It's interesting. We've got a divide straight away. FUGLIEE?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and bet.
I mean, we certainly have a lot of... Well, we have the nut advantage, right? We have all the sets. We have... If we open A7 suited, I suppose we have all 2 pairs apart from 9-7. So our opponent can have 9-7 when we don't, but obviously I think it's unlikely they have a hand like aces, but they can have 9s and 7s as well. And when it comes to ace-x hands, we obviously have ace, maybe, I would say better ace-x in this spot. We also have a lot of hands that are not going to be betting 3 streets, right? So we have to decide where we are going to be betting. 10s, jacks, queens, and kings. You're not going to get 3 streets of value in this situation. So I think it's an interesting one. Pads, what are your thoughts?
I would just bet very, very small. If you think about what you want to accomplish with betting and checking, when you check, he isn't going to really be doing much bluffing. There's not very many natural bluffs apart from flush draws. When you check, you allow him to just realize equity. Like, let's say he has pocket 5s, or the lower stakes you play, the looser hands people play, or the bigger the fields, the softer the players. They're going to be calling like deuces pre-flop, 3s pre-flop, 4s pre-flop. So when you check, you just allow him to hit 2 outs like for no reason, basically. When you bet, let's say you bet like 1.5 big blinds, he can still call like 9-8 suited, 7-8 suited. He can still call like pocket 8, pocket 6s with a diamond. He can still call jack 10 even though you block it. And it almost controls the size of the pot a little bit. If he does have an ace and we're going to check call, he's going to bet bigger than what we're going to bet. So exploitatively, I would just bet like 1.5 big blinds. You accomplish a lot of protection against like king, queen of hearts, which is just going to see 6 cards for free, basically, or 6 outs for free. And you still get called by some worse hands. So yeah, I would just go with a very small bet, 1.5 big blinds or something.
Okay. Stuff. So we do bet, but on the slightly larger side, approaching half pot. Button calls, 8 clubs on the turn. Doobie, you want to take it from here?
Yeah, I think I remember what happens here, and obviously he's not folding his ace-X. I don't know. I ended up checking, I think, and yeah, this is one that I'm not sure. I'd happily put it to the group what they think, because
it's an interesting turn card. I mean, I think we can potentially start to turn this hand into a bluff, given we have a jack in our hand as well.
Isn't it a bit too strong to bluff though? We want to be bluffing with like our diamonds and 10x in this spot.
I think that's interesting, because we got to think about where we go on the river as well, and diamonds obviously not a hand we want to go bet with necessarily, because those we're blocking the kind of hands we want the button to call fold with. So I do think the idea of like blocking Jack 10, blocking 9-8 and pocket nines has some merit to bluffing here. We only have 30 bigs as well, and the pot's already 12 bigs, so that's something to think about.
I think that fact
Ninja, is that why you were checking flop?
Yeah, I was checking flop, got some decent showdown value, and I appreciate everything that Pad says, makes total sense actually. So obviously I would change my mind now, but yeah, in game I would check call depending obviously on the size, but if there's anything somewhat standard, and then we can just check and decide on this turn. I like checking here personally again, out of position.
I think the stack size affect, like if we deeper, I'd be more likely to maybe barrel sort of turn the hand into a bluff, possibly. I don't know. That might be bad, but yeah, it's a tricky one. This I really.
If you bet like six or seven bigs, then you potentially back barrel off on a lot of rivers. Probably not diamonds.
We lost you a bit there, VanH3lzing. Do you want to say that again?
I would just say we have a perfect essentially drop on a diamond, for example.
Yeah, I'm struggling to hear you, Vin.
Yeah,
do you want to sign out and sign back in again, and then we can come back to it?
Yeah.
Always going to be technical problems. We streaming with 6 people. Pads, what are your thoughts on everything we just said? Like, obviously, I think you went the other way with on the flop.
I mean, it kind of depends. I mean, I think trying to make people fold ace-X or top pair generally in big fields is not really the way to go. Like, we get most of our value from showdown winnings, from betting big with big hands and getting called from bad bluff catchers and stuff. So generally I'd sway against from running some big bluff. And there's also not going to be that many ace-X he's going to fold, right? Like, he doesn't have ace-king. If he has ace-queen, he's just going to probably think he has a really good hand. Yeah. If he has ace-10, he's going to think he has a blocker. If he has ace-6, he's going to definitely just continue on the turn, and he's going to improve on some rivers. So you're really only targeting like a few combos of ace-X, like ace-deuce, ace-3, ace-4, ace-5 maybe. Even ace-5 is going to improve to a straight sometimes on the river, etc. So there's not going to be that many clean runouts. Like, if the river's like an 8 or a 7, maybe you don't go for it. If it's like a jack, it's a bit dicey. If it's a queen, you don't want to do it. If it's a 5, you don't really want to do it. If it's a 6, you don't really want to do it because he's got so many 10x. So often it feels desirable to like, oh yeah, I'm going to run like a free street bluff, and then you bet the turn, and then the river comes, and you just check, and you're like, oh well, I'm not going to bet this river. But in reality, there's just not that many good rivers to triple barrel here. It looks like it on the turn, like, oh yeah, great, we block this, we block that, and we block this, but what's going to happen is the river's going to just be either like a diamond or a 5 or a 10 or a queen or a jack. We're going to improve to a straight on 10, obviously, but on, let's say, a 6, a 5, a diamond, a queen, even a jack, we're not going to really want to start bluffing on a bunch of rivers.
Yeah.
I think realizing that we're not actually going to bluff very often and probably just checking and trying to get the showdown is the best idea.
Yeah, I think it's really good. And just as an observer, just sort of listening to the different viewpoints there, a lot of the initial conversation was about our range, what our blockers are, but then Pads was then talking about trying to what hands has he got, what's his range look like, how are we trying to get you know, ace X to fold. He's got the ace 10, the ace 6, you know, lots of ace X that continues. So yeah, I think it's really important to consider all of those.
Another option here, which is interesting, is that when we check, sometimes people just bet like 3 or 4 big blinds. So they bet like if they have like ace 4 or something, they'll just bet like 3 big blinds to like get to showdown. And we can actually like check shove the turn. Like whenever someone, if they have like 2 pair or straight or set, they're going to usually bet like half pot or bigger. Yeah. But sometimes they'll just bet like a feeler bet with like, you know, ace 5 or even ace queen or something. Bet like 2 or 3 or 4 big blinds. And then sometimes you have like an opportunity to even like turn your hand into a bluff that way. Also, when you check, you also get information about his hand, right? So like if we bet, he's just going to call like everything basically when he continues. So we don't really get any information. But when we check, we start getting information about his hand. Like if he checks back, maybe we like can 3x pot jam the river because he doesn't have any strong hands, right? It's like, let's say he checks back the turn and the river's a deuce. Then the best hand he can really have is like, you know, like ace 6 or something, maybe like ace 10 sometimes. Yeah. And then we can like shove our 30 big blinds or whatever and put him into a really difficult situation. And we could definitely play like value hands like that too, that we want to, for whatever reason, check the turn. So just allowing to give ourselves more information is pretty good, I think.
Yeah, I really like that. What do you ever sort of worry? You know, you make a big bet like or big bluff on the river in with this hand, and you start to think, okay, what am I doing this for value? And you just said there, okay, we're going to have some value hands there. Do you think it's more? Do you think we need to worry about balance, or we're just recognizing the situation?
The bigger sizing that you use, the more bluffs you can contain. So it's usually fine. If you are going to be bluffing a lot, you want to use a big sizing. Often people go for kind of the opposite way. They bluff a lot, but they bluff like this small sizing, which if you bluff a lot of hands, you want to generally use a bigger sizing. So not really. I will always be able to find certain hands, and I will always have certain potential slow plays or rivered 2 pairs or, you know, rivered sets or maybe Jack 10. I'm going for check raise on the turn against ace X and 2 pair, whatever else. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I would find value combos, I think.
Cool.
What sort of hands are you bluffing here, Pads, on the turn?
Maybe something like pocket 5s or pocket 6s where you unblock 9x. You want to try to bluff like Jack 9 and King 9 and Queen 9 kind of hands. Potentially, or just diamonds is the most natural one. You have the most equity. And whenever you have diamonds here, you're usually going to have some more equity. So like Queen Jack of diamonds is a straight draw, 10x of diamonds is a straight draw. The only diamonds which isn't a straight draw is like King Queen of diamonds. So if I have diamonds, I'm going to be happy to just keep betting. I'm going to have really good equity, so it's okay.
Sounds good to me. Okay, let's look what happens. We check and we face pot size bet.
So much for that feeler bet, eh?
We just put you in the cage.
Pretty easy fold, yeah.
Yeah, we still all same fold. I mean,
shame that I called.
Yeah.
I don't think you called, did you? Or did you?
Okay. No, I didn't butcher it that hard.
You did your best. Okay.
Cool. It's only taken us 20 minutes to get through one hand. How many more? 700 hands to go.
Just Pads, do you think that is a fold on the turn?
Yeah, I guess our equity is probably like 20% or something, maybe less. He could even have our equity against his range is probably something like 12%.
Yeah.
And when we do improve to a 10, he's not going to value jam it set. Probably.
But
yeah.
If he bets 5 bigs there, Pads, what's your cut off for continuing?
Yeah, I would look at my pot odds really, and I'll probably just see when we have 2 9s, 2 9s, and then 4 10s, and like let's say 2 jacks or 3 jacks. Obviously, some of them will improve him, so I would just take off like 2 or 3 combos and then see what my equity would be.
Yeah.
I would quite like shoving rather than calling versus smaller bets, like I said.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Let's move on.
I'm feeling the next. Right, this is multi-saving. I hate this so much.
So
I think we got Connor 1B1 in the chat as well. If that's him, this is really embarrassing.
Just the time to see call this.
I wouldn't. Okay, so we end up folding here. Now, this is not a spot you normally fold, right?
No.
No. So this is like talking about going back to multi-tabling earlier on.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, this is either a misclick or a timeout or something's going on here where you're not calling, which is obviously a problem. It's a profitable defend. So, has anyone got any thoughts on this, or should we skip over it?
I didn't skip it. Yeah, I'd save Doobie's face.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, but I think a serious point is that
Yeah.
if you, this is somewhat of a significant error and should probably be looking at playing less tables.
Yeah. Ninja, can we just get your face into shot a little bit more?
I don't know what's going on when someone left and then it's fucked up, so I don't know what's going on.
It moves around, I think.
Yeah. Can I just bring up the point? Some interesting stuff. We're starting to see sort of 3-bet jams in these situations more. Even for like, I mean, I've seen it up to 40 and 50 big blinds in this situation with certain hands. Used to be like, I don't know, a year or two ago where you'd 3-bet to induce with a hand like ace queen off. But what are your guys' thoughts on just jamming ace queen off here rather than inducing?
I would still be inducing with ace queen off. I feel like it's a bit too strong, but happy to jam like 5s through to 8s, I guess.
Yeah. Go ahead.
What sort of hands do you guys bluff here? So like 7 BB or something, 7 or 8 BB?
Yeah, I'd make it about 7 and a bit. I just wanted to sort of talk about FUGLIE's point there about happy to sort of jam those pairs. I think it's worth, we have to put in some high cards in that range as well.
I would shove ace queen for what it's worth.
You would shove ace queen?
Yeah, I would shove ace 10, ace jack, ace queen.
Yeah.
And then like low pairs, and then a few random hands like queen 8, king 7.
Yeah.
Some low offsuit aces like ace 5 off.
Mhm.
Shove quite wide.
Yeah.
Very hard for when people raise like say 40-50%. You have to fold pretty wide when you jam. You need to have somewhat of a balanced range. If you can't just jam pieces through to 7s, because then they can just, if they have like any high cards, they just can call.
Yeah.
You need some hands like ace queen, ace jack, where they can't just start calling like jack 10 and queen jack and stuff, where they're going to be dominated by a bunch of our range too. And even with ace queen, you don't really want to induce like a shove from deuces or 3s or 4s or 5s.
Mm-hmm.
And people generally won't shove like king queen against your 3-bet. They'll generally call it. And out of position, with the stacks as they are, it's good to just win the pot. The pot's like 5 big blinds or something. We have 30, so we pick up like 17% or whatever. So I would be happily shoving, I think.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, from what I've seen, like the calling, I think in this spot, the population's potentially not calling enough when you jam. Would you agree?
Yeah.
I've got a slight question on that because I totally agree with what you're saying, Pads. But say if there's like a tournament that you think you've got like a really like higher than average like edge in, say it's like the WSOP main for yourself, like would you still shove ace queen there for 30 bigs, or would you try and like play like more of a small ball style if you think you've got like a bigger edge?
Ace queen, you're not really worried too much. Like you're only gonna get called by like hands which dominate you, like aces, kings, queens. If anything, like the more passive you play, the more aggressive people are going to play against you, right? So like, if someone knows that you hadn't free bet them like all day and you're just playing really tight and really passive, then when it folds to their button, they're going to open, like 8-7 off, 9-7 off, and then you start getting in pots with ace queen where you don't want to shove against them, and then you're playing against a hand like 9-7, which is going to be in position. It could bluff you, it could just hit its equity or whatever. I think generally, like, especially in live poker, it's a lot about psychology, where if you are aggressive against people, then they'll be tighter against you in the future, and then you get more walks, you get more people folding their cut off against your button, etc., etc. So whilst like not shoving ace queen and sometimes going broke against 9s might sound good in theory, or it may sound scary or whatever, in general, it's just going to be, you'll get that EV back and the variance back in other ways, basically.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and I think shoving ace queen is actually lower variance than calling or free betting ace queen would be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like when you shove, they're gonna fold most of the time. That's all.
Sorry, just before we skip on there, what's our free bet range here?
In terms of like 3-betting hands that
Like
you
bluff.
do want to induce, and then some bluffs.
Well, no, bluffs, and yeah, exactly.
So, me personally, I sometimes do it with like wheel aces, but yeah, I don't know if that's.
So
I feel like
It's
Pat's
too-
gonna disagree.
Yeah, I disagree with that. That's too strong a hand to 3-bet fold if that's going to be your bluffs. Just picking hands like the small suit connectors is what I use at this at the depth, and maybe some offsuit combos as well, like 5-6 off, 5-4 off. The ones that are basically very very low EV of a call, and you just turn those into 3-bet. Make those up as a bluff. That's what I personally do.
yeah, I think like taking any hands that are profitable calls and turning them into bluffs is they have to be more profitable as a bluff. So taking hands that aren't even profitable calls and bluffing with those, maybe with some high card blockers, could be a potential strategy in this situation. And I don't think it's something that the solvers would do, but I know I've seen players 3-bet. Like I've seen Timex 3-bet queen 5 off or queen 3 off in this situation. So yes, Pads, thoughts on all of that?
Yeah, I mean,
Completely
I
opposite.
would never free bet any of those like low suited hands or like 5-6 off or anything. In general, no hand is better as a free bet than a call, like any hand apart from value hands. But you need to have some hands in there just for your range, just so people can't like overfold hands. So like let's say we only free bet like 10s plus and ace king and ace queen, let's say, then when we free bet they're going to fold hands like 6s, 5s, ace 10, ace jack. So we need to have bluffs just so that the top of our range can get it in against some hands which are like the middle parts of our range. So, but in reality, people don't know what your range is, or they're not going to play this. You're not going to play this spot against the guy in any other tournament ever again. There's so many people in the tournament, so you can get away with just having no free bet bluffing range here at all. But if you were going to free bet bluff, I would use like ace deuce, ace 3, king 4, queen 4. Like the low suited real ones are decent because basically you don't want to get jammed on, right? Like you don't want him to shove, and you want to have blockers to the hands which will shove on you. So ace 10 plus and aces and ace king off and ace queen suited, etc. So like when you have like 4 free suited or something, like you don't really block much, which is going to shove on you. When you free bet bluffing, you free bet so he's folding, right? So you want to have hands which are not going to block his continuing range.
Wow.
When the opening size changes, say like to 2.5, 2.6x, and your call in the big blind becomes less profitable, does your free bet range change then?
Not really. It's just it's gonna be more expensive to free bet too, right? So like, it's gonna be more of your stack to free bet too. So it's just like the same reason why it's less profitable to defend. It's less profitable to free bet as well.
Okay.
We'd just be doing more shoving because there's more dead money. So if you were making it 2.6x, I wouldn't have more bluffs. I would just shove a wider range. So I would start shoving like ace queen suited, ace jack suited, ace king suited instead of like free bet calling them or something. Generally, when someone sizes up off a lower stack, I would imagine he's a little bit stronger as well. Just a bit more money, and generally they have a better hand, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Dad life on Doobie's background.
Just, if you want to
How old's your kid, Doobs? He's on mute.
She's just turned 3.
Oh.
She's wandered down. She's lost her.
She's what? She's on a downswing.
What would she do? What does she do in the big blind, mate?
She's
Back
playing
10
better
off.
than I did on that hand.
No, you got it right, mate. You couldn't.
Skip this one as well, guys.
GKIS881 says, "Can you play a whole range as a jam?"
No. Well, I mean,
I don't
no.
think so. No, we just want to defend. I mean, we're defending so many hands in that spot that we obviously can't jam them all.
Maybe they mean
I
value
think
range.
what you meant.
Also, like 3-bet
no
range
free
would just be a like jam or call.
Yeah, it would be fine.